welcome to my channel. My name is Janelle McSwiggan and I'm a nurse medical writer for the past 6 years. I help burnt out healthcare workers become remote medical writers, and today we are working on the top 5 mistakes nurses make when starting to write. This is part 1 of part 2, so make sure you like, subscribe, and follow if you're interested in this topic. Let's get into it. All right. The first mistake I see when nurses are starting to write, because I actually coach nurses that are brand new to writing, is using fancy pants words. We're used to clinical documentation, right? So we are using words like granulation tissue and oropharynx and, just medical jargon because that's our background. That's how we talk to each other, that's how we talk to doctors, and that's how we clinically document our work. So that really sticks with us when we're writing because we're used to that academic tone. We're not like a relaxed field, like a yo, what's up type of field. So it's really hard for us to break away from that. But we have to remember that our target audience, most of the time, they don't know medical jargon. So we have to reframe that and remember that it's always about who's reading the article, not who's writing the article. Because if we're not remembering what the point of the article is, then we're going to lose our readers. And what's the point of writing an article if no one's going to read it? So I see nurses all the time slipping into this medical jargon. Not only that, but not explaining the medical jargon, or maybe they're using just this formal, stuffy academic tone, like therefore and hitherto, or as such, such as. And we need to make the writing a lot more approachable because it's generally for the general population. And even if it is for doctors, they don't want stuffy writing either. We want more approachable writing. Clinical writing is for the clinical setting. It's not for outside the clinical world. So we do have a hard time with that, and that's something that I really work on in my coaching sessions with people. The second mistake I have when nurses start to write is explaining every little detail instead of pulling out the main idea. A lot of nurses do understand the main idea because we're used to watching trends over time and understanding what that means for our patient. But nurses also don't want to leave information out. So a lot of the times I find that they'll translate this dense medical content for me and every single thing will be there. Even things that aren't statistically significant, even very minor details that frankly don't really matter for the content. And it ends up being this long rambling article that doesn't really have a lot to do with each other. Different parts kind of read like they're 2 separate articles, and it just becomes long and rambling, and by the end you're like, what did I just read and what was this supposed to be about? And it feels like you could just break this one rambling article into 3 different articles because everything and their mother is in there. So it's our job as medical writers to pull out that main information, translate the trends, and then write it. That also means that we're omitting information that is not important and bringing in information that is relevant. So that's something that a lot of new writers have to work on because they don't want to miss something. But that's where our clinical background comes in. We're the field experts that say, this is important, this is not important, and this is the article that represents only the important things. Another mistake nurses make when they're starting to write is talking like a college essay. I see this a lot. The 5-paragraph college essays or the high school essays that we're so used to writing become really the only things that nurses want to write or think that they can write. And there are a lot of similarities. You have the body paragraphs, the intro, and the conclusion. So I understand why people would think that they're basically the same thing, but the tone is different, the word usage is different, the format is different as far as sentences, and also how you write the whole thing is different, including how you cite your sources as well. We don't cite in college format at all. So just because you've written a college essay, that's awesome, but that you can't use that in your portfolio, first of all. I get that a lot. Your portfolio, which we cover in another video, so like, subscribe, and follow to figure out where that is. That should be your 3 to 5 best works, which is not your college essay from 10 years ago. And the college essay is a very particular tone, just like how a blog is another very particular tone or type of deliverable. So just because you know how to write one doesn't mean you know how to write the other. And if you were really bad at writing college essays, don't worry about it. You can learn how to write a blog without having to write a college essay. I think writing a blog is actually pretty easy compared to a college essay. It's more conversation based. It's more like talking to your peer than a college essay is. So I think that the two comparisons should really be separated because they don't have too much to do with each other besides the basic format and the fact that you wrote it. The next mistake that nurse writers make when they start to write is forgetting their target audience. So this is the same thing with the college essay. They forget who they're writing for. So the target audience is who you want to find and read your entire deliverable. And this could change from deliverable to deliverable and from client to client. So one client may have the FDA as your target audience. Another client may have the general population, and another client may have doctors. So you would talk different to a doctor than you would the FDA, than you would the general population. Your word choice would be different. The information that you decide to include that's relevant would be different. And even the formatting would be pretty different for those three populations. And the target population is arguably one of the most important aspects of anything that you write. And it used to be an issue for me. I used to get edits back that would just say, you forgot your target population here. Who are you writing to? And I would either be writing to myself or other nurses because that's what I knew. But at the end of the day, I'm not reading that article. Someone else is reading that article. So if you forget who your target audience is, you might actually have to rewrite the entire deliverable and redo the research and redo the format and everything else. And if your target audience isn't getting to your deliverable, then the whole thing's a waste because it's not getting to where it needs to go. So that's a major mistake I see new nurse medical writers making. Another major mistake I see new nurse medical writers making is not citing their sources. This is a huge one. Pretty much any medical claim you make needs to be cited. Anytime you have a statistic, anytime you make a fact that isn't common base facts. So I had a hard time because I'm a nurse. A lot of the time I would say like hypertension contributes to heart disease. That's a common fact to me, but it wasn't to my reader and it wasn't to my editor. So I would have to find a source that would support that because that's a medical claim. Anytime you have a definition of a disease process or a treatment or a medication and what it does, you need to cite your source. Anytime you say something lowers your chances of getting cancer, you have to cite your source. So you'll find that you might have like 25 sources in a single blog, 12 sources in a single blog. Occasionally I might have like 10 or maybe even 5 if it's like a really simple one, but most of the time I'm citing a lot of sources. So not only do you have a lot of sources you need to cite, you also have to cite a lot within the deliverable that you're writing. So almost every single line has to have a citation in there. So you have to, one, know the citation preference for your company. How do they want you to cite it? And then you also have to make sure that your research is current, it's unbiased, it's peer-reviewed, and it's up to the editorial standards of your company. So sourcing is kind of a bit of a headache when you're starting off because you're not used to it. You might be using the sources from your hospital, or you might just be used to Googling things, which is not how we do it as medical writers. Citing your sources is a new thing that nurse medical writers are not used to. The formatting is new, and also how to do the physical research is new. The good thing is that nurses are quick learners and we really take to research. I think that so many of us are used to figuring out what's evidence-based and what's not evidence-based and what we can and can't use. So it is a quick learning hump. So this is part 1 of part 2. Like, subscribe, and follow to see the second part. I have a comprehensive Writing Academy course, mentorship, and workshops available for nurses or healthcare workers that are looking to start remote work as a medical writer. You can find those resources at willowbarkwriting.com. Bye, guys!